This lecture will cover the Scarlet Letter, chapters 13 through 15. Chapter 13 is titled Another View of Hester. In chapter 13, the details focus on Hester and how her life has changed drastically over the years. In fact, it has changed for the better. This chapter starts about 5 years after the previous chapters. Chapter 13 finds her a valued member of society, one who still focuses much of her time on helping the poor and the needy. As a result of this, and as a result of her not having any additional transgressions, the community has come to respect her in a way. As far as Hester personally, she now seems to be more calm and reserved, and overall seems to be more content of a character. She's no longer as defiant and no longer as openly passionate, those types of things. She also has started to dress in simpler clothing, matching less the fashion of the day, as she was described as dressing in early chapters, now matching more the simple dress of the Puritans, including the cap that she wears to cover her hair. The Scarlet Letter no longer seems to dominate her appearance. It's not the thing that people notice first about her now, partially because they are used to it. She's been wearing it for so long, in a way it has lost its focus. In fact, some people in the community don't even seem to notice it anymore at all. They also now privately believe that possibly that letter A stands for Abel instead of adultery. It has taken on a different meaning because of Hester's continued good works in the community. Ironically, she is now celebrated as a model of female behavior instead of the warning over the danger of sin that the community intended her to be those 7 years ago. Pearl is currently 7 years old. And because the rest of her life seems so happy and settled, even her worries about Pearl seem to have been somewhat reduced. Hester has decided that she is now going to turn her efforts to protecting Dimmesdale from Chillingworth. Dimmesdale, of course, has continued to deteriorate in health. That brings us to chapter 14, which is called Hester and the Physician. The physician, of course, being Chillingworth. One day when Hester and Pearl are out playing by the ocean, because even though they're more accepted, they still live a very solitary life, they happen upon Chillingworth, who is gathering herbs for his medicines. At this time, he is still living with Dimmesdale, and he is still allegedly trying to help Dimmesdale get better from his mysterious ailments. Hester decides this is a great opportunity for her to address the issue of Dimmesdale directly with Chillingworth. She sends Pearl off to play because she wants to speak to the doctor alone. And in any case, as we've talked about before, Pearl doesn't really care for the doctor. She's a very intuitive child. When Hester gets close to him, she marvels at the change in his appearance as well. It's not so much that he has looked old, even though he has gotten older. And remember from those earlier chapters, he was much older than her to begin with. He has taken on an evil look. He seems dark. And she wonders if he is not turning into the devil himself. They begin discussing their mutual situation with Dimmesdale, and she accuses him of actively trying to harm Dimmesdale. And Chillingworth, of course, says that I have been saving his life. Without me, he would be dead. And Hester says it would be better if he were dead, as a matter of fact, rather than living all these years being unknowingly tortured by Chillingworth. Hester, at this point, begs him to leave the Reverend alone, to give up this vendetta that he has. Now, at this point, there has been no confirmation from Hester that Dimmesdale is indeed Pearl's father, but Chillingworth remains suspicious of it. Chillingworth refuses, and he says, in fact, that it is Dimmesdale's fault that he has turned so evil, that Dimmesdale and his actions and his refusal to come clean with what he has done, that is what has turned Chillingworth into a fiend. So Chillingworth believes it is Dimmesdale that is to fault that Dimmesdale is at fault, for what Chillingworth has turned into. Chillingworth does not see his need for revenge as being what has turned him into this fiend. Hester at this point says, I'm finished with this. If you don't stop it, I'm going to tell I'm going to tell Dimmesdale what your true identity is. So in essence, she is saying, I'm going to tell him that you are my husband. This threat, I should say, is the final confirmation that Chillingworth has been looking for, that Dimmesdale is indeed Hester's former lover. And he says, I don't care. He says, he doesn't say that in so many words, but in so many words, he says, I don't care. Tell him the truth. He seems to say, this is our fate now, and I need to see it played out. Chapter 15 focuses on Hester and Pearl. That, in fact, is the name of the chapter. As Chillingworth leaves, Hester remarks to herself, she says, he has done me worse wrong than I did to him. She says at this point, even though it's a sin, I hate him. And she's in essence saying, what he has done, spending all this time trying to get revenge for my adultery, this is worse than the adultery itself. And she again asserts her hatred of him. At this point, she calls Pearl back from her play by the ocean. Pearl, by the ocean, the mischievous child, has been throwing rocks at birds. As always, she's used to playing by herself and entertaining herself. As such, she has made accessories of the seaweed that she finds by the ocean. And as a matter of fact, she has made herself her own letter A that she has put on her dress out of eelgrass. At this point, Hester asks her if she knows what the letter A means. It's really the first time she has ever initiated conversation. By that, I mean it's the first time that Hester's ever initiated conversation about this letter A. Pearl just mentions she doesn't exactly know what it means, but she mentions that she has made a connection between this letter A that her mother always wears on her dress and the Reverend Dimmesdale constantly gripping at his chest. This is, of course, shocking to Hester. She is ever amazed by the intuitiveness of her daughter. And I'm not sure that at this point, Hester even has made that connection herself. Hester, of course, at this point is ready to drop the subject because, it feels like Pearl's maybe getting too close to the truth. However, Pearl continues to question her mother about the letter A. Hester, for the first time, lies about what the letter A means because Pearl keeps asking her, well, what does it mean, Mother? What does it mean? And Hester outright lies. She tells Pearl that she wears it because she likes the gold thread that it is sewn on with. Pearl, again, does not buy that at all, and Hester refuses to answer any additional questions about the letter. She, of course, at this point is sorry that she even brought it up.